All right, hello everyone. Welcome to, of course, the Endurance Series. My name is Stryfium. That is not ideally how I would have liked to cue us into what is my home Grand Prix, of course. We're here for a 100% endeavor around the Montreal circuit, the Canadian Grand Prix, of course. It is 14 turns of just madness. And joining me, as always, for the action, Unicorn, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I'm coming off the back of an endurance race stint, but it's a wet race, and well, I want to say that I don't know. I haven't got a full picture of the weather. I know you mentioned it earlier, but I don't. Again, I come into this a bit blind, so
It is going to be weather dynamic, that I can guarantee. And we had a weather dynamic race last week as well. Well, not last week. Had a week off from the F1 last week. However, the last time we were out for the Endurance Series, it was a 100% campaign around the Netherlands, where we saw a ton of changeable conditions. I believe there was an average of 4 to 5 pit stops in that race. Now, this race, I do know the weather. I will give the forecast. We are going to see a dry qualification in this event. The Endurance Series weather is based on the weather in reality at the location where we are racing. So in this case, it is, of course, Montreal, here in, well, the province of Quebec in Canada. Now, with that being said, Saturday, when qualifying would normally take place, well, it was dry today in, well, Canada. And tomorrow, on Sunday, when the race would normally be held, going to rain. So we're going to see a little bit of, I think, a dry start to this race, heading into very, very wet conditions. So, for a absolute thrilling race. Wait to just get 20 drivers into things here. I believe we had 20. Now there's somebody who had an issue.
yeah, not quite sure what's happened there. We did have 20 drivers, like you said, so I'm sure we'll be getting them back in a minute.
Now, I hear a lot of people talking. I see a lot of people potentials in Discord today. It was a running joke that we could potentially see snow conditions here in Canada. That if I had the option to introduce those conditions, I definitely would. Then again, if it was up to the tires of TRL Limitless in his latest video where they were negative 250 centigrade, I think we'd see snow in some wet conditions regardless.
Well, I think a snow would be a fairly easy red flag for everyone, but it would be quite entertaining if we could see something like that.
Everybody's
there we go.
back up invite. Lock the lobby up, so we've got everybody in, and I think we're all set then.
Yeah, I do believe we are ready.
A long race here around Canada. Keep that in mind, it's 70 laps around the Montreal circuit. The circuit Gilles Villeneuve, of course, on the man-made island of the man-made island in Montreal, the Isle of Notre Dame. Very, very interesting circuit. Very fast. I call it the North American Temple of Speed, but the drivers don't like it very much because of how strict the corners can get. However, today, of course, the Endurance Series, we employ a slightly different set of rules from the regular Misfits Racing League action, and that is, of course, that we are going to be utilizing regular corner cutting stringency as well as reduced damage, as opposed to the regular full damage and strict corner cuttings. It's a long race here, so these drivers, we want to have them comfortable. Here we are now. 18 minutes is the amount of time these drivers will have to get their best lap in. 20 drivers on this grid ahead of a 70-lap race. Changeable conditions, and the qualifying will be dry. That I can confirm without any doubt.
And I think we're going to see some absolutely blistering times in this qualifying session as a result of those reduced corner cutting rules. There's a couple of corners here that I imagine we're going to see drivers take advantage of, particularly those last few, that famous World Champion chicane, turns 13 and 14. I think the inside of that final turn could get very interesting. We see how close the drivers can get to the limit of what are now a new set, as well as turn 4 as well. I reckon there's probably a bit of time you could shave off through there. Turns 8 and 9 as well. So, yeah, these chicanes on this reduced corner cutting stringencies are going to be very, very interesting.
Realistically, there's 4 chicanes around this circuit. I mean, you have the 3-4 chicane, you have the 6-7 chicane, 8-9 chicane, and then you have the 13-14 chicane that brings us through Wall of Champions. And you have the casino straight as well, that sector 3, that long straight that gets, of course, broken up by that end chicane into the beginning of the next lap, heading down the straight into turn 1. It's a very fast circuit, and these drivers, well, to be honest here, every driver on this grid is quite quick. We've seen all of them in some capacity or another, and it takes a certain level of concentration and consistency to really make it through one of these 100% distance races. Cactus going to be following the Haas of, who's this now? I believe that's going to be Rutanius, heading out first here in Montreal. He's in the Haas.
Yeah, the Haas cars there are usually the last to be selected here in the endurance series. It's first come, first serve on the seats. So Rutanius and Ginicari are the 2 drivers in those 2 seats. And with it being first come, first serve, obviously there's no specified teams for the endurance events. So you get some interesting lineups for teammates.
Yeah, it's a big shakeup. Big shakeup for sure. You have Angel, Remco Van Putten, Cactus, Domi, Ginicari. We have Microlander, XTXP, as well as Moen, Liam, Unicorn. What's then?
I imagine that is. I think that's
then?
Wisp playing a little joke there.
Oh, he's gonna be in
With
for
the-
it later. No, I'm just kidding. Unicorn
With the UN2 corn.
well, he stole his first name from a big YouTuber anyway. PTR there, Enners, Finn. We have Shenjay, Rutanius, Yoda, as well as Alex Biddo, Yasko, and Brainstew, all on this grid. A lot of fast, proven drivers here in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting to see these guys go toe to toe over the course of a doubly long event. It always just shakes things up. The tire strategy is, again, something I love about these 100% races. Seeing everyone, because everyone knows just how the tires have scaled to those 50% league races. You come here to a 100% race, and they do something completely different.
Going to be key here. This Wall of Champions chicane always presents invalidations, and oh, that's a huge cut. But guess what? It's regular corner cutting for the endurance series, where we would have normally seen that invalidate the lap. Rutanius comes through with a 108.4, Cactus a 108.8, and you'd like to see them be able to take that liberty to be able, of course, to get through some really rapid lap times. Freeware 107.8. Real quick, big shout out to Mr. Raggy. Thank you very much for the host, sir. Of course, my name is Stryphium. Thank you to Raggy, who I was commentating with for RNL earlier. A fantastic round around Silverstone. A little bit of drama in the end in that one. Hopefully we won't have too much drama. Well, I'm just kidding. We're going to have a ton of rain coming here in Canada. And if you've seen the 2011 edition of the Canadian Grand Prix, well, welcome to the virtual equivalent, because we have had some very unique wet races in this endurance series. And we're going to see another one here today.
Yeah, and the wet weather, especially when you've got varying tire strategies. For the 100% race, combine that with the need to switch between, or at least the introduction of the intermediates and or wet tires. It's gonna be one hell of a race, as X6P giving Alex Biddo a nice little tow down the back straight as they come across the chicane.
Well, they're racing.
X6P.
Here's for the tow, says Alex Biddo, the Spaniard, coming through. Well, Nearly half a second quicker than XTXP.
Look at that, Ginicari. He's on a fly coming down towards the World Champion chicane, and he's going straight into the pit lane though.
Asco in the Red Bull. He's coming through 3-4 chicane now, heading through into the corner of course, the flying Tanitsa into turn 6-7, the next chicane in this circuit. DRS rear wing wide open now. And if somebody can do me a favor, make sure we clip that turn 5 call out for on behalf of the Ferrari of David Danitza. Send it over to Brownie because it was he who put the thought in my head. Do you hate to see it or do you love to hear it? How do we go about that one? Yasko now coming down through, tapping through turn 12. Down the casino straight we go.
His teammate Remco as well is flying, but obviously Yasko going to be first across the line here. And he's going to put himself in 14th, 109.9. Remco will be looking to do something a little bit quicker than that.
Unicorn, your counterpart. Unicorn the second here in the Renault. Coming through out of turn 7, a brush of the wall there. No damage. I think I am going to refer to him as Wisp, however, if that is the case.
It is definitely Wisp. It's definitely Wisp. I can confirm. Although I'd be rather impressed with myself if I could commentate on one and race with another account. That'd be
right
quite
after an
the feat.
endurance race as well. Yes.
But let's hope that Wisp here can carry my name to good stead as he comes to complete his first flying lap of the session. And it's just ahead of Yasko at 109.8.
Oh,
Liam's had a big issue. He is
looking for
spun
a
it
Red
out.
Bull, and I'm always Liam normally driving a Red Bull. I'm looking for him on the timing tower, and he's in 19th in the Racing Point.
Yeah, not quite sure what happened there for him, but just coming out at 8.9, and he spun it and is just sort of grazing against the wall. I think that might have something to do with the damage model here, but he still lost a fair amount of that front wing. I was gonna try and bring that one back to the pit lane.
Liam, this is a home Grand Prix for him, and the last time he went around here, you might remember, Unicorn, didn't go so good. He retired in that Tier 2 race, spinning through the Wall of Champions, being hit in a head-on collision, if you will.
Yeah, that was a rather dramatic moment in that race. Probably one of the most dramatic of the season, to be honest. But, you know, he'll be looking to rectify things, set the record straight. As Mike Wilander, he's going to cross the line, looking to move on 192. It's going to be an improvement, I think. It's a 107.9 from Mike Wilander, putting himself fourth with a almost 3/10 improvement.
Curious to see what the Haas driver Ginicari is able to pull out here coming down the straight. Coming into the 13-14 chicane sequence now, the Wall of Champions. From Ginicari. Current gap to leader first all the way down to P10 1.193. Most drivers getting their laps in on softs, a couple drivers dabbling in the mediums. They do have a weather forecast. Of course, if you're just tuning in, my name is Stryfium, all the way from Canada for the Canadian Grand Prix, and joining me is Unicorn from the UK, and we have wet weather coming in this race. It's going to be a dry race start, if I'm not mistaken, heading into some Canadian conditions. the white essence that we call snow, but we will get quite some downpour.
Remco's been disqualified from the session. Don't know what he's done to warrant that level of punishment, but the Red Bull will not be starting anywhere other than 20th place on the grid.
This is going to be a race, I think, Unicorn, that really, I think if you just finish this race, you're going to be able to say, yo, look, I don't know where you've been, but I finished the Endurance Series, the Canadian Grand Prix. Because the weather, I'm telling you, the weather is going to present a very unique opportunity to the tune of, you know, dry tires, potentially full wet compound, back to inters. Maybe we see full wets again by the end of this race. I mean, if anyone has seen the 2011 Grand Prix around, of course, this Montreal circuit, you'll know when it rains, it rains. Liam now, the Canadian driver, as we say it, he's in the Racing Point. However, not the yellow T-Cam car of Lance Stroll, but in the Canadian car nonetheless. Coming down through turn 6.
Oh, and Wisp has just had a massive off, but he's done it in an attempt to just absolutely shave off basically the entirety of turn 8. So some of these track limits definitely very loose, but at the same time he's paid the price there for trying to exploit them a little bit too much.
Him down the Casino Straight, tapping through turn 12 into the Casino Straight.
Yeah, it's one of those turns you barely think exists, but it is very much there, and you can see him absolutely removing the chicane.
Yeah, Kane wasn't there.
And I think that's the beauty of these endurance races. They get to have a little bit more. It's a bit more relaxed for the drivers, a bit more. I don't want to say fun because that would imply that they don't enjoy the league races, but it's completely different.
It's a different kind of pressure. It's a different kind of stress. I mean, they put a lot of time in, week out, and not everybody on this grid is racing in the league. Even this is welcome. Anybody who wishes to race in this, get in the Discord. It's a first come, first serve based series. And if you want to get in it, if you haven't raced in it and you don't even get in as, you know, one of the first signups, you go to the front of the line. There's a lot of people that can race in this that, you know, just jump in the Discord. It's the Endurance Series. We have a few. This follows the Formula 1 calendar. The only reason we're not racing Turkey, of course, is because we don't have it in the game.
Yeah, and I'm sure after today's qualifying session, I'm sure some of the drivers are quite happy that we don't have Turkey in the game because it's fairly chaotic in itself. But nonetheless, they've selected a track where it's also going to be absolutely tipping it down come the race. Rutanius, the 1/10 improvement, slots himself into 7th place ahead of Finn.
Hikari's just had a brush with the wall. We'll see if he carries on with this lap. Yeah, he does. He comes through the chicane. Through that little, you know, bump in the road, if you will. It's not necessarily a chicane at this point in time. He does improve, but by 0.02 of a second, and things are quite tight down to 11th. Other than that, things start to taper off, and we'll have to see what happens when these racers hit the wet conditions that are coming. The big question is, it's a long race. It's a long race. We're going to see a little bit of dry running before we get to the wet weather, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be up and down. The last race we had for the Endurance Series that saw changeable conditions, for those that may not have tuned in, it was the Netherlands. And the weather in, of course, the Netherlands can be quite up and down just the same. We saw an average of 4 pit stops per driver in that race. Some as many as 7.
Yeah, and what a race that was. So this one is something that I definitely wasn't going to miss this one. This is Canada. I know it's one of your favorite tracks, if not your favorite tracks, with no biased reasoning coming into that, but it's such a great track. And when you add in the 100% aspect, the weather aspect, and the reduced corner cutting as well, I think that changes it up as well.
I think the Canadian circuit has presented itself with presented a lot of fantastic, iconic Formula One races over the past years, and I'm pretty pumped up about that. You know, I'm gonna say that for sure.
It also in the calendar itself comes after those, you know, like the Monaco and the Bakus, so it's a nice change of pace when we got here in the season. It came at a lovely time. We
MRL,
get to see the races.
It was beautiful to see kind of things get opened up for the drivers. If I'm not mistaken, this round follows immediately after Baku.
Yeah, which follows Monaco. So there's still a few areas where you can't go side by side, but most of the time it's definitely a much more open circuit, much more overtaking opportunities. As everyone now coming out for their final runs here this evening.
Owen coming through a 110.4 from him in the Alfa Romeo. I will commend him because he took the chicane as it's meant to be taken. He didn't cut it or pretend it wasn't there like some of these drivers. Microlander now in the Mercedes. He's just exited through turns 10 and 11. Now just tapping through into the DRS straight. That invisible almost turn of 12. Now on the Casino straight heading into the 13-14 chicane is the Mercedes. Utilizing, well, a little bit of the inside and exit curbing, I guess. He slows things up massively. Crosses the line. Does not improve. However, I think he might have done that, and he pulls off.
I think some of these drivers take these lines as they're supposed to, because that's what their muscle memory of the track is telling them to do. And if you go against what you're used to doing, that's when you can start seeing big mistakes, especially when it comes to cutting corners, because some of the curbs, they're just bouncy if you just take them too much. As Domi looking to improve, and he improves by 1.2 seconds into the top 10.
Him. The Canadian is who else? I think he is the only Canadian on the grid today. Him not driving. Got a couple of Canadians in the MRL. No Ghazi Egg on the grid.
I do believe you are correct. He is the only Canadian.
This is gonna be one heck of a race. One heck of a race. Second from 12th position all the way down to Shenjie in the lead of things. A 107.263. I have to say, and I mean this I actually genuinely mean this. Shenjie is what I'll go as far as to say the corner cutting specialist. He's got quite the repertoire of videos on YouTube for no assists, no limits, no rules corner cutting. Just comes through now. We'll see if he's able to improve on his already blistering 107.2. Yeah, there it is. A sub 107 from Shenjie. It's a 106.977 out of him. And he further cements his position as the corner cutting specialist. Check out his videos on YouTube. I'll give him a little plug there.
Yeah, a different kind of circuit guide offered up by Shenjie.
Yeah. You want to learn how to go through as quickly as you can, disobeying every rule in the book. He's your man.
Well, it certainly paid off for him. He is pole position ahead of this. And I think that could be a very important place to be sitting before this race starts.
Definitely. Pole position for him. Shenjie in first. Yoda in second. Freeware in third. Alex Bitto in fourth. Rutanius in fifth. Brainstew in 6th, Microlander in 7th. We've got Finn in 8th, as well as Henners in 9th. That's Domi rounding out the top 10. The Hungarian, I do believe, is using the wheel for a change. Normally on the gamepad. Cactus begin the back half of this field. I will take you through the rest, of course, on the formation lap.
As we load into the session, it's looking pretty dry at the start of the race, but we do have a lot of laps for opportunity to change, and Freeware has just sent in a weather forecast to the Discord, and it is quite the varied affair. It is... all I can say is I can see there looks like there's a lightning bolt under one of those clouds, so this could get very hairy for the drivers out there, but very entertaining for us who are sat in the warm and dry.
I am very, very excited for this. So, formation laps, 70 laps here around Montreal is the duration. We've had 18 minutes to assemble this grid. Here we have it. Shenjay, Yoda on the front row. Freeware and Alex Bido behind them. It's Rutanius in 5th with Brainstew in 6th, the Italian. Microlander in 7th. We have Finn in 8th. Henners in 9th with Domi rounding out the top 10. Cactus beginning things in the back half of this field in 11th with XTXP in 12th. It's PTR in 13th position with Liam, the sole Canadian on this grid, in 14th. He begins this race on the medium compound tires. Jinakari in 15th. Yasko 16th here with Angel in 17th in the other Racing Point partnering the Canadian. Well, Wisp in 18th position going by, well, Unicorn's alias Untucorn, and we have Moen in 19th position there with Remco van Putten, the Dutchman, rounding out the 20 racers for this one. And I am very, very excited. As you said, the weather is going to be quite varying. We have a nice, dry, clear view of things here, but we have good indication that things are going to go from 0 to 100 as far as the weather, which is the case in most scenarios around Canada.
Yeah, this is just going to be so interesting. The tires as well. I'm looking at them now. There's a good deal of variation. No one on the hards though. All softs and mediums. They're spread out fairly evenly across the board, but there is a lot of variation, including Freeware and Alex Bido, who could be very interesting in this race.
I am absolutely thrilled. Look at that predicted pit stop strategy for Brutanius. For some reason, I don't think Jeff knows the weather forecast at the moment, so these drivers are going to be tuned into those radios lap after lap, asking him when that rain is coming. But of course, Unicorn, take us away here in Montreal.
Well, here we go. The drivers are revving their engines. They're getting ready to go away. And here we go. We have launched away. The race is underway here at Canada. Yoda clearing away from Freeware. Freeware gets a little tap, and that's caused a little bit of concertina behind him. That's Alex Bido up the inside for P3. And there's the McLaren of Cactus with a very questionable rejoin after going off at turn 1. He's caused a bunch up of cars behind him. It's Remco van Putten already up 10 places on this race.
Big
And
contact.
that's Domi spinning just before or just after the chicane.
No damage, however. Fortunate for him. Changing now, it's Angel in 13th position. Liam under major threat. That's Jinakari in the Haas around the outside as we make our way into turn 8.
Spun it.
Freeware in the AlphaTauri. Where's he landed in all of this action? He's spun it around coming out of turn, well, that's turn 9, and that's somewhere we've seen, Unicorn, you and I, where these drivers can seriously have a major struggle for traction. So he's going to drop into 19th position. Cars slowing things down now, but we have no VSC deployed as of yet. Jinakari and Liam still wheel to wheel.
Yeah, X6P is just getting past Cactus as well, going down into the chicane. It looks like Cactus is coming into the pit lane. Finn and Microlander, they're going side by side down the start finish straight. Finn picking up 6th place, and
Liam on the
Moan
inside
and
into turn 1. Inakari holding on to 12th at the moment. He's going to switch back now, the Canadian. Oh, this is tight racing between these two, although not for points at the moment. We're very, very early on in this race. Finn and Microlander are still exchanging. Liam is back into 12th, but we're going to look onto this wheel-to-wheel battle. Microlander blowing through the grass, hugging that inside. Henners and the Dutchman move through. That's Remco van Putten now in 8th in the Red Bull. XTXP is not too far behind this. He's in the Renault as well. He is holding on to that final points position, and we are only on lap 2 of this action. And things have been absolutely action-packed. Yellow flag popping up through Sector 2. That's Yasko. And now there's a massive exchange. Remco van Putten looking at the inside of Henners. He gets that move done into 7th position. It's the Ferrari now under major threat. The Dutchman not waiting around here. 6th position is up for grabs, and he smells the blood. Here we go, the Charging Bull now. Round the outside through the chicane, utilizing that regular corner-cutting stringency, and bam! There he goes into 6th position. And where did he start this race? That's right. He started this race at the back, and he's already into 6th position.
Yeah, this race start has been absolutely crazy, and it's not even letting up now. We've just got DRS enabled, and it's Finn under a little bit of pressure from Microlander as they come through turns 3 and 4. And the front 3 have got away nicely. Alex Biddo on the rear of Yoda, but Yoda's still got DRS on Shenjie up at the front.
Microlander and Finn now in an exchange, wheel to wheel coming down into the turn 8-9 chicane. Of course, now Microlander wheel to wheel with him. He's gotten a 3-second time penalty. There it is with the squeeze out of the Ferrari. That's cost him major here. And Brainstew, the Italian in the Alfa Romeo, has had an issue. We'll have to check in with him to see if he's got damage. His teammate Moen moves by him, and it's a good chunk of damage on the front left of this car. We'll have to see what Brainstew is able to do here. He's on the softs. Could see him to get onto some mediums, looking to get into some rain later. So much action brewing right now. Alex Biddo wheel to wheel with, of course, the Albanian. That's Yoda in the McLaren as we're used to seeing him. Alex really wanting to get through on the Albanian into range of Shenjie as we make our way through the 3-4 chicane, and there's just a lot of exchanging happening right now. Microlander, Finn still fighting.
Yeah, Finn's just got past him down through turns 1 and 2, and now the Ferrari holding off the Mercedes, who they've just exchanged for their starting position. So this battle has literally been going since the lights went out, and you got to say it's been a very exciting race start, especially if you're Remco van Putten up 15 places. But Microlander now with the DRS. Finn doesn't have it on Henners ahead, but Mercedes not able to take full advantage of that drag reduction system. We'll have another look down into the hairpin of turn 10, but still a little too far off. Behind them, Jinakari, Wisp, and Moen are in a little train.
Oh, they are having a major battle here. Angel now is locked and loaded. He's in the racing point. He's hunting down XTXP. Here we have it now. Looking to the inside is the Mexican driver. Wheel to wheel through the chicane now. A little bit of a squeeze there coming out of the Renault. Now it's going to expose Angel to his teammate Liam. It's the 2 racing points here in Canada. Wheel to wheel into turn 1. There goes Liam, the Canadian, on the inside here around his home Grand Prix. Neat move from him. However, Angel is going to look to keep up with him, and both of these cars, they, I imagine, want to work together to move up these, well, to get some further positions, but things looking quite tense over at the racing point camp. Meanwhile, Alex Biddo DRS on the rear wing, coming down into the 8-9 chicane, hunting down the McLaren, and Yoda not giving Shenjie much opportunity to breathe. The one key thing here is it's Alex Biddo in 3rd, and he's on mediums compared to the soft runners behind and ahead of him.
Yeah, there's still a lot of battling going on for the last few points positions as well. Liam, Angel, XXP, they've all been fighting it out, and we've got a yellow flag. It's for Brainstew, I believe, for having exited the pits, but now it's Microlander looking at Finn, going down the casino straight towards the chicane, but Microlander, not able to get past the Ferrari convincingly before the chicane, and because of the corner cutting, Finn's able to hold him off. And this is going to leave Liam. Can he get him past? But Michelander's DRS allowing him to stay in 8th. Can he get 7th off of Finn, though? Around the outside of turn 1 for the Mercedes. Finn gets a little bit wayward out of the second corner, and that's Microlander up into P7. Finn slots into P8, and the 2 racing points are still hot on their heels. Liam, in particular, ERS just a little bit out of the chicane and up into P8, but Finn isn't done with him yet. Has a look up the inside. Get a defender on the outside. And this is going to give Angel an opportunity. They're going to go 3 wide if they're not careful. Down towards turns 8 and 9. It's a little bit of contact. The 2 racing points. You can see Liam there having to use the off-road. He comes back in behind his teammate ahead of Finn. But Finn's collected. Who is that? It's the runner of XTXP.
There's a VSC deployed on this, and that is some serious intensity boiling down. There's some contact now, major damage on that Ferrari, and it's sad to see after it was so clean through the corner of the flying Tanitsa. They were wheel to wheel coming through turn 5, except we didn't see a Ferrari getting squeezed into a wall. So we love to see that, but it's unfortunate to see the contact coming out of the turn 9, of course, the 8-9 chicane. So VSC slowing things down, drivers utilizing this time to get into some different tires, and take a look at the sky, ladies and gentlemen. Things are brewing. A storm is on the horizon.
Yeah, Ginicari and Wisp are side by side coming out of turn 2, and it is Wisp in the Renault just ahead out of the corner, but I think Ginicari might have got some better traction, but he has to back out to avoid contact through the chicane. But like you said, a literal storm is brewing as far as I'm aware. If the weather report is correct, Remco Van Putten is getting nice and close to the rear of Routanius. He's going to have DRS on the Haas, but the Haas is not going to have DRS to defend against the Red Bull.
I made a note here is take a look at the fuel light on that Dutchman's car. He knows the rain's coming. There he goes up the outside. As clean as he can be.
I mean, he's definitely got the pacer on this track. His extortionate amount of positions gained. His brain stew's unlapping itself, has tapped the rear of Remco. He's now off in the off track, but not something you see very regularly. Something you don't want to see.
Ooh, sorry to interrupt you there, Unicorn. Ginicari is in a wheel-to-wheel exchange, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. The rain has arrived.
Yep, it's come a little bit sooner than I expected coming off of that weather report we got, and I imagine this is going to throw off some of these guys on these medium composite tires. It's probably going to have to pit as Alex Bitter and Yoda are going toe-to-toe. Alex Bitter now up into P2. Out of the hairpin. Very nicely done from the Spaniard. So is that the sign that the softs are starting to lose their touch a little bit? And are they going to make it to the switchover for the intermediate tires?
Tell me. Driver we're used to seeing in some very front end battles right now is utilizing his wheel this evening. Going to go the distance here in Canada, 70 laps, and it will be quite the endeavor for him. Not used to using the wheel in these races, and this is going to be quite the difficult race for him. And Liam and his teammate, of course, Angel, still exchanging like a bunch of synchronized racers over here looking to put on a show that was as clean as you could get through that turn. I imagine they don't want to give each other a problem. And, well, what's happened now? Microlander has left the session. He is in the pit lane. I'm not entirely sure what's happened now to him. We'll see to get him back in.
Yeah, Ginicari was just pointing the wrong way out of the final chicane.
Rain's been here for the past lap. It's slowly coming in, and here we have it. XTXP and Domi. They've called it now, Unicorn. They have come in onto the green-rimmed, of course, intermediate wet compound tires. This is where things get very interesting.
Yeah, the switchover, it's so tricky to get right, but if you do, that's where time is gained. It's where races are won or lost in these conditions.
There's been an
The front runners are coming in as well.
Let's see how things unfold in the pit lane. Yoda on his way out.
Yeah, Alex Bidow's beating Shenji out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think he did, and I think Shinji might have had to serve something there. Curious, maybe a wing change?
Oh, and Angel's been double stacked as well. So that's going to cost him. Shenji didn't have a 5-second to serve. Let's see.
So we're only on lap 10, by the way. Lap 10 out of 70. And we've had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, looking at the race director, Shenji had a faster pit stop by Alex Bidow, not by much, but no front wing change, no penalty.
Look at the spray.
I don't know how Alex has done that.
Look at the spray. Henners was right behind Liam a moment ago, and the spray coming off of that racing point indicates to me that these drivers are going to be coming in pretty soon again. I think the rain's going to get heavy. Real heavy.
Someone hasn't come in.
Finn.
It's Finn in the Ferrari.
What's he done?
I don't know if he missed the memo, but
maybe
he was battling XTXP, and
maybe he's waiting to see if they get heavier. I don't know, but
I feel like a lap on intermediates and then just switching off onto the wets would have been faster than what he's doing right now. He's struggling big time.
Well, let's take a look on with this race leader, of course, Alex Bidow, who overtook Shenji in the pit lane, I do believe. Which I'm sure Shenji is not going to be too thrilled about. But of course, it's 1 second the gap between the two. I do not believe we have DRS in this equation any longer. I think it has been disabled, and it is an absolute torrential down. Well, it hasn't really started coming down, but it looks so slick as we make our way down into turn 8. And you can see that these drivers are struggling. They've already come through one lap on these tires. Things have spaced themselves out massively as well, and this is really going to be, I think, a test for these racers.
Yeah, and if conditions continue to get worse, and that is what they are forecast to do, these drivers haven't even tasted the worst of it yet. Finn does indeed come in to the pit lane, but for hard compound tires.
Oh, what on earth are they doing over at Ferrari? What has his engineer done to him? That is just... Well then. That is extraordinarily unfortunate for him. Of course, if you're just tuning in... Sorry there, Unicorn. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's not unheard of that the game selects the wrong compounded tires for people. We've had that before, but Finn's not going to be happy if that's the case.
Oh, I don't think he's going to be thrilled even remotely. Of course, if you're just tuning in, welcome. You're here for round 14 of the MRL Endurance Series. Of course, if you wish to join and race in this series, all you got to do is join the Discord and sign up, as it's Domi now taking XTXP. We've got a yellow flag popping up. That's a Ferrari. I do believe that is Finn. Still struggling here, but Domi has dispatched the Renault into 13th position. But of course, hit that follow button. We have a ton of racing action. 5 league races a week, plus the Endurance Series whenever Formula 1 action's happening. There's a ton of wheel-to-wheel battling happening here. Of course, my name is Stryfium, hailing from the Great White North of Canada, coincidentally, and joining me as always is Unicorn from the UK. Happy to have everybody here tuning in around, well, things are getting heavy wet here, that's for sure.
Yeah, Liam seems to be closing down on Remco Van Putten. And it'd be interesting to see someone we know as a very, very good defensive driver. And it's also something worth that as Liam takes a lot of the curb, as we've got a safety car.
Oh.
Finn is out.
Finn has caused a safety car. I'm not entirely sure where he's done it. But I can't say that...
straight.
Well, I imagine there's going to be a lot of racers happy about this, because it's really going to bring things back together now. Oh my. So 20 races began. We're down to 19 now. We're on lap 13, and we've had our first safety car of the campaign. And for those that were dreading looking at long gaps in the timing tower, well, guess what? Your prayers and your hopes have been answered because we are going to have everything bunched up once again.
Yeah, before that happened, what I was about to say was that with these wet conditions, obviously we're on the reduced corner cutting stringencies, and as a result, everyone's trying to maximize their usage of the curbs. The curbs are now very slippery around here. So what was the fastest line may still be the fastest line, but it's definitely not the safest. So we'll have to see how that affects this race, because I think some people might just get a little bit caught out here.
Alex Biddo's jumped into the pit lane. Shenjay is retaking lead of this race. Alex Biddo's making a big call here to serve a penalty. And he's come onto some, what tires are these now? Intermediate compound tires, and I don't know about that one.
I think he got it last time he came into the pits for speeding into the pit lane, which is possibly how he beat Shenjay out of them if he overtook him on the entrance.
Can I just say, as the weatherman for this equation, my dear friend Alejandro, wrong tires, my friend.
Yeah, I think everyone saw the forecasts, you know, so I think it's a big risk picking another set of intermediates.
Look at the conditions right now. I'm on board with Freeware. He's following Moen under safety car conditions. These drivers are charging to catch the safety car. The spray, the visibility. These drivers are going to be coming in all over again, I feel, because just look at how slidey these tires are. They've got no grip.
Yeah, these guys are going to start to struggle big time, and I wouldn't be surprised with this rain continuing to come down if we saw someone at the end of the safety car just pop into the pits. Just no one will be expecting it, or maybe they would be, but pop into the pits and get some wets on. And right now, I don't know if the conditions are bad enough. We're getting to the cusp, and Cactus is coming in. Is he going to be the first onto the full wets? What's he doing? He's going for a wing change. I can't quite see the tyres that he's opting for, though. It is more Intus to the McLaren.
Oh man. Tell us in the chat, do these look like intermediate conditions? Do these look like green rim tire conditions, or do you think we need to see some nice blue tires?
I don't know if we're there yet. I know it's close, but I don't know if we're there yet.
I don't know. Look on board with Henry.
Well, that is some pretty substantial evidence, shall we say?
Yeah.
There is very limited visibility on this Williams. We need to see some... I want to see some traction out of the corners. That's where it's going to get very touch and go for these drivers.
Oh, thank you to everybody who's joining us, by the way. To all of you viewing along and joining us with the predictions and the nice chat. We greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate it. It's definitely a lot of fun when people are enjoying things. I think the safety car, I do believe, will be coming in at the end of this.
Retanius just had an issue. He's just lost a bunch of positions. He sort of... I don't know if he's damaged his car, but it looked like he crashed into the hairpin. And now he's causing a load of issues because I don't think he actually left the track.
Well,
so
look
the
at
game
this.
is very confused.
Shenjay, Yoda have come into the pit lane, and there we go. The blue tires, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't even get to see that much intermediate running here. That safety car coming at a very unique time, and the call has been from a good chunk of these drivers to come into the pit lane. Is anybody going to be staying out here? Undrivable. Undrivable, I believe, was the word being heard in 2011 around this circuit. Has anybody ventured to stay out on intermediate compound tires? XTXP has ventured out, as has Moen. And these drivers are now on the green-rimmed intermediate compound tires. Look at the rain coming down through turn 2. It's a river.
They also, XTXP and Remco Van Buiten seem to have had a little race out of that pit lane, which isn't really what you should be doing, especially with the conditions we got here. But that pit lane is a bit... Microland has pitted for fresh intermediate tyres.
I do believe that he's no longer in control of that car. I think he might have...
Yeah, I think he's had some sort of disconnection.
I don't know if we're in back here.
He's got another invite.
Safety car in this lap. So here we have it. Moen and XTXP. 3rd and 4th on inners. What a wild... You have these drivers as well. Microlander, PTR, Brainstew, Cactus have all been lapped amongst this right now. And Genjay is slowing things down massively to control the pace of this grid.
Yeah, this restart. I imagine Chaotic is going to sum it pretty well. Remco right on the XTXP, not even waiting behind him. He wants full visibility for when this grid gets let go. And XTXP dives into the pits, as does Moen.
Andre has gone. Yoda sticking with him quite well. Remco Van Putten is into 3rd now as a result of the pit stops. Those drivers, Moen and XTXP. Brainstew has retired his car in the pit lane, I do believe. Things not too intense. Whoa, that was a big move. Look at this Domi now. I do believe he's just taken headers there, unless I'm seeing things.
I know Angel went up the inside of one of them. I can't remember which one he did, but either way, very brave moves given the conditions. And Alex Biddle and Liam are having an exchange further up the grid. The Ferrari and the Racing Point side by side, and both Racing Points right now seem to be having a go, but Alex Biddle isn't going to give up that easily. Not able to make the move back, and the visibility right now,
0.
Next to none.
0, yeah, it's really hard to see. Look at the spray coming off of these cars as we head down into the hairpin. Alex looks to the inside. He gets the car on the inside. The Ferrari, can he hold this move? This is so tight between these two. I can't believe the door was open. Is he gonna hold this? Oh, Liam is not gonna be too thrilled about this.
This is now getting hard to commentate. I can't see what's going on between the cars. I can see that Freeway is close to Rutanius, but I can't see where Rutanius is. He's being showered by Wisp, so... Down towards turn 1. They all go. Rutanius looks up the inside, as does Freeway, but no availability for them, as Freeway looks to try and get a better exit on the inside. So Rutanius, does the AlphaTauri have the traction going down towards turn 3? He does.
Oh, Rutanius!
What a brilliant move.
Rutanius, I think he wanted. Oh, that was just Freeware with the cojones. That's for sure. That was just scary as can be coming down into the 3-4 chicane. That's for sure. And Alex Biddle looking to catch up with Remco Van Putten. He's trying to pull away from Liam. And things are spaced out on this grid a little bit. Not too much now after this safety car restart here. Of course, the conditions, all of these drivers going to have different setups, different ways to approach the wet weather right now. But Freeware is still one of the tightest gaps on this grid, hunting down, of course, Wisp, running under your, well, I suppose an alias of yours in some cases. Freeware in 7th now. With that overtaken utilization, barely able to see what's in front of him. He is going to move now to the outside ahead of the Renault.
Alex Biddle on Remco Van Putten down towards turn 1, looks to the outside. And the Ferrari is side by side with Remco, who is going to come excellent traction on the inside. And the wet weather conditions, there is a dry line there. It's not completely dry, but it's much drier on the outside. And Remco just found that out the hard way. He stepped in a puddle, put his foot down, and nearly lost the entirety of the car. So he's done well to keep himself pointing in the right direction, but He has lost the place to Alex Bideau.
Things are tight, really close behind Wisp right now. Rutanius and Domi are into the equation, and somebody else who's catching up to that is Vettel, or well, Angel, as he's going by today. Now, Rutanius looking at Wisp into the 8-9 chicane, and you can hear the tires squealing, trying to find traction, they're locking up. Of course, in these conditions here, we have Domi looking to the inside as things are happening for these two, Yoda and Alex Bideau exchanging as well. Alex Bideau ahead. It's Domi now on the inside of the Haas. Does he get this move done? Yes, he does. He's into 8th position. Yoda now looking back at the Spaniard. He's on the inside into the Wall of Champions chicane, the 13-14 chicane. Alex Bideau coming through. Yoda with a switchback maneuver, of course, utilizing the regular corner cutting, and that's the move done and dusted for the Albanian, but this has cost Alex. Here comes the Dutchman around the outside of turn 1. The Red Bull, does he have that inside line? Alex looking to close them off a little bit. These two do so much wheel-to-wheel battling on a regular basis. We've seen this so many times between Alex and, of course, Remco. Liam has locked and loaded his rifle. He's looking to attack as well. He's coming really fast behind, and he wants to get on the podium. It's his home race, of course.
Yeah, Domi's just not past Wisp, but Remco, you could see him just trying to force his car up the inside of Alex because he knew from the lap previous that that outside line is completely soaked. So how Alex managed to put down the power, managed to accelerate out of turn 2 and keep himself ahead, but now has had a big slide through turn 9, manages again.
Oh, Rutanius with a big look at Wisp coming into the 8-9 chicane. They're wheel-to-wheel on the exit out of 9, and it's Rutanius on the wet line, but he's going to have a little bit more of that dry line coming into the hairpin, and there's another safety car deployed here on lap 20, Unicorn. What has happened? What has cost this? Wow. These conditions are torrential. Was it the weather in itself? I didn't see any flags coming up.
I saw one come up, but I don't know who it was for. I thought maybe it was Moen, but I don't think so. Mike Orlando might have had an issue. It's through sector 2 somewhere, I think. No one appears to have damage. What is... I'm absolutely bewildered as to what's caused this. Maybe the incident reports have something to enlighten us as to what's just caused this.
Very confused as to why we have a safety car out right now, and Shenjie right now following it under these massively wet conditions. 18 drivers remaining. It's the Alfa Romeo of Brainstew and Finn out of this one in the Ferrari. And
the chat seems to think it's the weather that's brought up the safety car. So this is as close to a red flag as we can get. This is the game's equivalent of a red flag.
It is the game's equivalent of 2011 Canada, and I have to say that's what I was going for, and I think we've hit it on the head, and minus the fact that I had the clear weather at the beginning, but I don't have that many options here in the game to duplicate real weather conditions from historic F1 races. But hello to the safety car, and look at these torrential conditions. I'm on board with Remco Van Putten. He's on this wet line. Just you can see so much of a reflection coming off of the water as we make our way down the casino straight, and it is quite torrential. Look, you can't even see. Oh man, I love it. I love it. This is awesome.
Yeah, the track right now looks like a mirror. I can see everything reflected off the surface of it. There's not so much puddles now as it is so much that the lake to the side of the track is sort of encroached upon it. So this track is very close to being borderline dangerous to drive on, but obviously we're in the virtual world, so these drivers can keep going as safe as they like.
Wisp has just taken a penalty under safety car for a collision with Rutanius. This has been this has been what I think I was craving in the Misfits Racing League endeavors when we had the Canadian Grand Prix.
This is
Well, could you
I don't
imagine
think
this in an actual round?
That would be with full damage, full strict corner cutting. This would be just bonkers. If you've got people, because as well, if you've got it in a real setting for one of these league races, there are points on the line here, but they're not for a constructors championship. Really, these people aren't here week in, week out. Well, some of them are, but
It is
they
bragging
don't necessarily
rights.
have to be. This is bragging rights, but if you had all of that on the line with full damage and full corner cutting on, this would be very, very, very intense and utterly bonkers. But the only downside to that would be we still have 48 laps of this to go.
Something you got to look at too is look at PTR and Cactus as well as Microlander. They're all lapped. They can't, they have a safety car for what we think might just be because of the weather, which would be wild. I don't think I've ever heard of that in this game.
Yeah, I've never seen the weather like this.
That's true as well. How often do you see 100% distance races with weather like this? I can't say I've seen it. This might be a first. This is for like a full 20 driver grid, organized racing. I've never seen anything like it. We saw absolutely no contact. This is reduced damage. So when even there is contact, we've seen it all season long, Unicorn. Safety cars are rare. We've had 2 in this race. And we're not even halfway through things.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out that the first safety car was caused by Finn and his accidental endeavor onto the dry compound tire during this torrential downpour. Shinakari and Moen seem to be having a little bit of a problem. In particular, Moen is very much off the racing line.
I can literally only see the energy deployment light on the rear of, well, Wisp. I'm on board with Britannius right now, and I can literally just see the blinking red light coming through some of the sections of this circuit.
Yeah, the visibility. I can't imagine driving in this, to be honest. I can say for sure I'm not confident in the weather, in the wet weather, but the safety car's coming in. I'm on board with Domi. I should be able to see 6 cars ahead of him. I can see 2. 1.5 really. I can't really see Liam's car at all. But it looks like Shenjie has actually already hammered down. And everyone just taking the Wall of Champion chicane as gently as they dare. Wisp getting a bit sideways through it. Is that going to open him up to Britannius behind? The Haas looks on the outside, looks to the inside. But Wisp layer on the brakes has defended it. Freeware seems to have had a little bit of an issue. He's got Domi around his outside.
Angel around the outside into turn 1 now, switching back to the inside for the racing point through turn 2, and he's made it happen as well. Domi now, wheel to wheel. We have Wisp trying to catch up with this, but he has just taken Freeware for P6 through the 3-4 chicane. In seriously torrential conditions, these moves happening this quickly. This is wild stuff, and Alex Bitto, the Spaniard, of course, who has had a lot of success in this endurance series, is hunting down Yoda. Genjay leading this race coming through the 8-9 chicane, and I can't believe we've already seen a few overtakes on this restart in these conditions. There's nothing on this circuit. Look at the visibility out of this Williams. You can see the rear view on Angel's car. You have a little bit of visibility because look at this, but the spray that is just flying into the front of that Williams is massive here.
Yeah, Alex Bitter's just managed to squeeze past Yoda outside of the hairpin. So now Yoda with ERS, both of them deploying that battery down into the chicane, and Alex Bitter just completely closes the door. And the Williams of PTR is pointing the wrong way as well. He's got a fairly substantial amount of damage on that Williams.
Things still very tight all over this grid right now. Angel getting that neat move on the restart around Henners. Henners not going to be too thrilled about it. We're now 9 laps, soon to be 10 laps on these already, well, these wet compound tires, these full wet compound tires. We've had a little bit of safety car running in these conditions, a little bit of drama, some overtaking. We've had intermediate running. We've had soft, medium, and hards utilized by a few of the drivers in this race already. Taking a look at the stops, everybody's come in 2 times at minimum. A few drivers, 3. In an extreme case, in Microlander's case, 5 stops for him. Fastest lap right now is a 111.127. I would be shocked to see it get beaten at any point in the rest of this race, because if I'm not mistaken, the rain is going to be staying with us until the end of this race. However, I do believe it is going to lighten up to a point for intermediate compound tires. And somebody who has decided to jump onto intermediate compound tires is the Williams of PTR. Currently 30 seconds away from Microlander, who is a lap down in this campaign. We'll have to see if he's able to find some increased pace on those green-rimmed compound. Here we have Domi now, hunting down the Canadian Liam. Every time I jump on with Domi, he spams the 6th gear for whatever reason.
Yeah, Domi seems to just sort of found some, not pace in the last few laps, but seems to have found his rhythm and is really pressuring. And now with a lovely exit out of turn 2. Liam defending up the inside into the 3-4 chicane, but Domi isn't having anything of it. And if Domi is on his wheel, this is really putting himself in at the deep end. We saw him struggle, I want to say yesterday in Club on his wheel, but tonight in these absolutely appalling conditions, he really is finding his rhythm on that wheel. And Freeware is going to have a look at Liam now as well, looking up the inside, coming down into 8 and 9. Freeware not being able to get past Liam, but
I bet you a tenner that Domi's back on the pad as soon as he saw the weather report. Probably went through he probably went through qualifying, guaranteed, and was like, nope. Angel right now under threat. Henner's back looking for 10th position. Wheel-to-wheel exchange coming down into turn 10, the hairpin. Angel with a bit of a slide through, late on the brakes, and he's contacted Retanius, and Henners has slipped through. Is he going to dispatch both of these racers? It's wheel-to-wheel between him and Retanius still. The Williams now just edging ahead between these two. It's a fight for an additional point, theoretically, and of course, Angel has dropped off. Henners holding on to 9th. He's made it happen for now. What a move coming out of the Williams.
yeah, Freeware's still trying to get past Liam, looking on the outside of turn 2, not getting that move done. He's still going to have a look up the inside. He's just waiting for Liam to make a mistake, putting his car where Liam's going to see it coming into these corners, trying to put pressure on. It's such a popular strategy. Again, just looking up the inside, warning Liam that he's still there, and can just be enough to make someone slip up if you're not careful. But Liam doing a pretty stellar job of defending against the German right now.
Well, Liam has nothing to lose but points and some bragging rights around his home circuit here. So if I'm in Liam's position, if I'm in P6, I'm going to defend with everything I've got. And something else to talk about is Remco Van Putten is catching up with Yoda. They've separated themselves away from Domi by 2 seconds, and Yoda has pulled off 4 seconds away from Alex Bitto. Alex Bitto keeping very well with Shenjie. Of course, no DRS in the equation for these racers. I mean, who could think of DRS with torrential conditions like this? But there's a big gap that has been pulled away in that fight for potentially the 2nd position here.
Remco.
Yeah, he's very tight to the rear of Yoda. Moen looking at Yasko. Yasko has jumped into the pit lane, and he's taken a 5-second penalty as a result of speeding as well. That's going to push Moen into 11th. Jump back on, though, with, of course, the Dutchman, who, if I'm not mistaken, quite enjoys racing in the rain.
Yeah, but on this restart, Alex Bitto, we saw him serve that 5 seconds and get those second set of inters before everyone had made that switch to wets, and we thought that that was going to hurt him, but right now it doesn't seem to be putting him down. He's about to lap Cactus here. He's only 1.2 seconds down on Shenjie. He started the safety car restart. He was about 4th, I think. He's dispatched both Remco and Yoda. He's doing pretty well. Henners, he gets the exit on Wisp here.
He's showing some fantastic pace in that Williams right now. He's really enjoying these wet conditions. I think his car setup might be very good for him right now, and I think he might dispatch Wisp coming out of turn 10. Heading top, well, that's turn 11 now. As we come to the DRS line here, this is turn 12. Good exit out of him, though. Remco Van Putten looking at Yoda into turn 1. Does he look at the inside? Yoda holding him off quite well. Oh, little snap from Remco. I think Yoda had a loss of traction as well. They've now lapped Yoda's teammate.
Oh, freeway into the rear of Liam as Liam was lapping Cactus, I do believe, and freeway snuck into 7th place or 6th place, past 7th. And I don't think Liam is going to be too happy with how freeway's done that, but I think because of the reduced damage, he hasn't suffered any major problems as a result. Remco's still on Yoda's tail, looks around the outside, switches to the inside, a bit of a lock-up. Goes a little bit wide to try and get a switch back on Yoda, but Yoda's covering the whole thing.
Wisp and Henners in a major exchange coming through the 8-9 chicane and wheel-to-wheel on the exit. Henners into 8th position, has the inside line coming down into the turn 10 hairpin. I keep wanting to say unicorn. Admittedly, of course, he's trying to play games here, but we have now Henners and him are still fighting. That's Henners on the inside. A little bit of wheel tap, another wheel tap. Oh, Domi and Remco Van Putten have exchanged as well. Come through the chicane, there's contact. Both drivers still keeping things all right. Oh, and this battle is still going. Henners now in 8th position. A little tap from Wisp here.
During that chicane, Henners did the impossible and picked up a 3-second time penalty for multiple track limit warnings. So he's done that. Also worth noting, Domi, like you said, he slipped past Remco and is now between Yoda and the Dutchman. Made a nice little move at the inside of turn 1. 3-second time penalty. And Alex Biddo seems to have had some sort of issue. He was closing, but has now lost about 2 seconds to Shenjie.
He's lost more than 2 seconds, Unicorn. He's lost a front right end plate. That Ferrari is not going to be thrilled, and PTR has now retired the car. And where has he done it?
He's out. He's out of 8-9.
Yeah, 8-9. Are we going to see anything as a result?
He's on track. That car's still moving.
Well, the car is still moving. I don't know if it was a mechanical terminal.
He's pulled off the circuit now, but that car was still moving, I think.
Biddo in, yeah. Of course, if you're just tuning in, if you missed any of the action, happy to have you joining us. This is round 14 of the MRL Endurance Series with, well, you can see some torrential conditions. It was a dry qualification, 18 minutes, with a dry beginning to this race. Clear weather as far as the eye could see, until it wasn't. Welcome to the storm. Now, we do have the weather report. It will be coming down to some light rain conditions, and I do believe we may see more heavy rain near the end. Of course, for those that have seen the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix, I think we've had quite the rendition of it. We've even had a safety car for what we believe was literally just heavy rain.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch it, but I'm pretty sure there was nothing there that would have warranted a safety car. Apart from this torrential rain, as Alex Biddo coming out of the pit lane. Both he and Henners have been very much enjoying these conditions, it would seem, but now it's the Spaniard behind the Englishman who is faring to these conditions better. That's what they. Alex is on fresh tyres, and despite the fact that these wet weather tyres do go a fair distance,
yeah, they
the fresh
will need
rubber
to
will
come
still
in.
impact.
Well, they will need to get off of them, I think, at some point in this race, whether it be to inters or another set of wets. There goes Alex Biddo breezing by Henners down the casino straight into the 13-14 chicane. Domi holding on with Yoda now, and Remco Van Putten's lost some time behind these racers as well. I imagine not too thrilled that the Hungarian moved up. There's a big move from Freeware on the inside of turn 6. He does not get it done, however. Does he have another look coming out of turn 7? He's on the inside. He's not quite wheel-to-wheel any longer. He has a weave out to the outside. Remco squeezing him off, holding that inside. Very tight racing between these two. Now the German having to utilize that runoff area, and it's a slip out from the Dutchman on the exit out of 9. And there goes Freeware, the German, into 4th position.
Yeah, while that was happening, Henner's had a tap with the wall as Remco and Freeware are still going at it. Freeware, better traction out of the hairpin, it would seem, than the Red Bull, but the Red Bull using overtake a little bit more, and that's Freeware running low on battery, and Remco just steaming away. Side by side going into the chicane. Freeware taking a lot more of the inside of the first corner, but Remco covering the inside of the second, and the Red Bull still ahead as they approach turn 1. But Freeware a little bit later on the brakes, up the inside. He has been just so brave into some of these corners in these wet conditions. It's barely faced him at all, but he is still behind in 5th place.
Liam's caught up with this as well, and they need to really carry through and perhaps not battle so much before these racers start to catch up. And somebody who's going to be looking to catch up with all of these racers ahead is, in fact, Alex Bido, who is essentially working on a very large undercut to the drivers ahead.
Yeah, obviously the front wing change is going to cost him, but if he can, he's been strong. He kind of gained that time back on the safety car restart, and it does look like, though, Striff, the rain is easing up a little bit. Alex doesn't have anyone ahead of him, and you can kind of see the raindrops clearly. It does look like in some places the rain is easing off. Obviously, the track is still absolutely drenched as Domi gets very close to the rear of Yoda. Can he make the move into the chicane? Who is that? It's the Red Bull of Yasko, who's had an issue getting into the pit lane. Yasko's retired.
Very unfortunate for Yasko. That is now the 4th retirement in this race. 16 drivers remain. And I do agree with you. We see a little bit of a break in the clouds here. Starting to see a little bit of white in the sky. A little bit of light, if you will. And that means that perhaps, as you said, the rain is lightening up. Domi on the charge on the rear of the Albanian now as we make our way through turn 6.
Yeah, the thing is just when are these conditions gonna start to impact these wet tires? And has Alex Bido, obviously he made the right call, but it still was wet conditions when he came in. But this could be another costly error for it. Not error, it's the wrong word, but a costly just force of his hand.
Gotta look at how much pace he's pulling out of Henner's. 7.5 seconds in a few laps. That's a lot of pace in that Ferrari right now, and that tire differential is going to play a role just the same. Of course, if you're just tuning in, everybody, thank you so much to everybody who's followed along today, and of course who's been supporting the Misfits Racing League. We greatly appreciate you all, and we hope you've been enjoying this extraordinarily dynamic race. And as we say, extraordinarily dynamic, Shenjie has pulled the plug, and he is thinking it's time for intermediate compound tires. Where is Alex Bido? He's heading in for intermediate compound tires as well. What a very unique decision coming out of the Spaniard here. Shenjie has come out in 6th position. This is going to cause a massive chain reaction as it's a wheel-to-wheel exchange between the Hungarian of Domi and Yoda now in a fight for essential lead of this race.
Liam and Freeware are battling as well. Liam ahead, coming out of what is 6 and 7. Freeware though, utilising his battery, but Liam's got so much more ARS to play with, and he's just able to hold on to P4 right now.
Domi with a big slide out on the rear of Yoda. This is going to cost him massively, and it's going to be very good for Remco van Putten. A big lunge now from Domi. That's the back marker car getting into the equation of Microlander, of course. Now, Remco van Putten, he's lost massive time as a result of this. Now, one key thing to note here is we follow Yoda heading down into the 13-14 chicane. Of course, if you look at the top of the timing tower, both of these everyone's coming into the pit lane now, as we said. The chain reaction has begun. Shenjie with a fantastic undercut here onto the inters, but yes, Shenjie now is going to cross that line, and we have now immediately crossed into the second half of this campaign. We're on lap 36 out of 70. Seen soft compound, medium compound, hard compound tires, as well as inters, now to wets, back to inters. This has been an extraordinarily dynamic race with a VSC as well as 2 full safety cars, and we still have half of the campaign to go. So thank you for joining us here on your Saturday evening.
Yeah, Shenji's had an absolutely massive undercut here. It was definitely Inter's conditions a lap prior to this. He's now got 11.4 seconds. It's interesting to know Alex Biddo as well is not too far behind. Obviously, he had that unfortunate accident that cost him an end plate, which he came in for a pit stop about 4 laps ago. But now, the undercut's working for him as well. He's got Microlander's car to get past first, and the blue flags, it has definitely held him up here, but there is a definite dry line now. You can see it on the track. It's forming in a lot of these places.
Ooh, Hanners has had an issue coming through the 3-4 chicane, and I'm not entirely sure if he was wheel to wheel with Moen or not, but he came out ahead of Rutanius. And I was on board from the helicopter with, of course, not on board, but I was viewing the Haas of Rutanius from the aerial view, and then we saw Hanners' car come around outside of the chicane. So I'm not entirely sure what has caused this issue, but he will be looking to catch himself up now. 9.6 seconds. The amount of time that this car has lost to the driver ahead. That is going to be very, very unfortunate. We're now lap 37. Remco van Putten right to the rear of Yoda. Yoda has been doing quite well. Let's take a look at the position changes in this one. Yomi. Well, let's take a look at the leader. We have Shenji, who started this race on pole position with a sub 107 time. Yomi in second has made up 8 positions, as well as Yoda has dropped 1. He'll be looking to catch things up with the Hungarian, but he's got, of course, the Dutchman of Remco van Putten, who is in 4th. He started this race in 20th. Liam up 9 positions, the Canadian here for his home Grand Prix. Nicely done from him. Reware and Alex down 3 apiece, with Wisp as well as Moen up 10 a pair. We've got Rutanius down 5, Henner's down 2, XTXP holding station in 12th position from where he began, Jinakari up 2, Angel up 3. Microlander and Cactus down a significant amount of positions as well, 8 and 5 respectively. So we've had a very, very dynamic race. Of course, Freeware still holding on to the 111.1, the fastest lap in this one.
Yeah, and both the Haas drivers right now looking for moves as Rutanius has a little look at Moen, but he isn't going to be successful. Shinakari as well on the rear of XTXP. Both of them trying to put as much pressure on the car ahead as they can, and visibility definitely has improved over the course of the last few laps. The rain easing off, and if the weather reports to be believed, we might see these conditions worsen. So it's going to be very interesting.
Hunting now. Anius and the Haas looking at Moen. Moen trying to hold him on the inside here. Gets back onto the outside line. The Alfa Romeo holding in at 9th for the time being. A little bit of a love tap coming out of the Haas.
Trying to work out where we are on the weather report, to be honest. As Rutanius looks at the inside of Mo, there's not really space there. Almost spins the Alfa Romeo. Gets very, very close there. But he's still got a nice exit. Not going to take advantage though. Moen obviously going slower because of that slightly hampered way through the corner as a result of that little bit of contact. Up the inside though goes Rutanius, trying to put that car, and he's forced the error.
Yeah, well, Moen is being really, really, really clean here. He's given him space. He saw him in the rearview mirror. He's forced a reaction out of Moen, and now Moen holding on to 9th position. Maybe Rutanius not getting the exit he wanted. Now things are less than a 10th between these two. On the inside, heading into 13-14. How's it gonna go? There goes the Haas on the inside, and Moen holds it, but he does take a huge cut and a 3-second time penalty as a result there. And well, Anius has now forced an additional error, and he's still holding on extraordinarily tight with this Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, and looking at the weather report, after the torrential storm, it's only supposed to be heavy rain, so I think it's only going to remain in these conditions or worse. And Jinikari and XTXP, they have had an exchange. The other Haas driver has been a little bit more successful than his teammate in getting past. The one they were following is Mauritanius again going at the inside. Moen miles off track again, but manages to hold on to P9. Remco's caught Yoda as well for P3.
It's just it's such a dynamic because things have been spaced out. We've got penalties coming into the equation, even with the regular corner cutting for these endurance races. It's a ton of fun. Of course, if anybody viewing is interested in racing in these 100% distance races, they follow the actual weather forecast. So tomorrow, theoretically speaking, it is forecast to rain in Montreal, and that's why we're seeing it here. So the drivers do have a sense of the weather. They can look and see, okay, this is where we are racing this weekend. What's the forecast going to be like in Montreal? And they give themselves an idea. Of course, it's not going to be picture perfect. Only we could do that, but of course we can't even predict the weather, 100% regardless. So we're seeing quite a compelling race, though. 100% distance. We're on lap 41, and it's definitely presenting a unique challenge to these racers. The battle of consistency, strategy, and just craft in these wet conditions.
Indeed, and Rutanius still putting Moen under a lot of pressure, but not able to make the move, and has just failed there to get through the 8-9 chicane. Just putting Moen under pressure is sort of costing him a little bit of time. Liam's also caught Remco Van Putten and Yoda, so there's now a three-way battle for the final podium position, and everything just... This is where the drivers who are so used to these 50% races that, most of them are used to in traditional league racing formats, this is where those who have that second wind that they've got to just keep going, to keep pushing, because these are... Obviously, it's not as taxing as a real F1 race, but it is still a lot of concentration you have to put into these races, and these drivers now will be feeling it, especially with the conditions we're facing.
No matter what you're doing, whether it's playing a video game or racing a real car or, doing a sport of some degree, doing something that requires a lot of concentration, you're gonna get soaked not only in rain in reality, but you're gonna get soaked. Like these guys, they come out of these races and they say, like, the amount of concentration that is required, especially for the wheel racers, as Angel has come into the pit lane and retired. The amount of concentration for these racers is massive. You've even heard the Formula 1 racers that have been playing the games. We even had the opportunity with Nicholas Latifi when we had a nice exhibition with him, before the first round of Austria. You and I commentated that. Do you remember what he said? He was sweating because these races are so intense, and he was battling wheel to wheel with Alex Bitto and Rackety in that race, and it was just a lot of fun to have. And these drivers, the concentration, I am... There's reasons I commentate. One of them is that I'm not nearly as fast to compete at this level. On top of that, of course, the fact that I enjoy it. But look at Remco Van Putten. Him and Yoda, they've been fighting constantly. Constantly. They can't make a mistake.
Yeah, the inside into the hairpin, and a little bit later on the brakes for the Dutchman, and they're just going to try and get the switch back. But it's not going to happen. The Remco's just parked his car right on that exit where he needs it. But yeah, these races are definitely a physical thing. Even I did 35 minutes of fairly competitive driving before this, and that's enough to warm you up, get yourself, just, it is taxing. And these drivers, they've been going for longer than 35 minutes. They've had qualifying before, and now they're 50 or so minutes into the race.
Well, I can tell you we're just shy of 2 hours now. We're at an hour and 37 on this broadcast. We had a little bit of downtime before the race, of course, so I put the actual race somewhere in the plus 1 hour range already at this point, and we're only on lap 43.
And there's still this train. Remco Seems to be putting out a little bit of a gap. Yoda now on the defense to Liam, but Liam a little bit of a wayward exit out of turn 7. And you can see they're still wrestling in the car, even in these intermediate conditions. And like you said before, Larry started, I think anyone who finishes this race is going to be able to give themselves a pat on the back and be happy with how they performed. 15 drivers left. 20.
Absolute intensity. Look at Liam. He's so tight to the rear of Yoda now. He has a big send through the chicane. Of course, regular corner cutting utilized in these long races. Now to the inside, a little bit of a desync between these two drivers, but he gets that front right in to the wheel well in between the two left wheels of that McLaren, and there's a little bit of contact. Yoda holding on to fourth for dear life, and look at Remco Van Putten. He's pulled a second and a half nearly out of Yoda now.
Yeah, this fight is costing the pair of them to Remco, and Remco is just going to be super happy. He's going to be quite comfortable just chilling on his own in third place right now, trying to just pull that gap out and just chilling himself out. He's been in that pressurized fight, 3 cars deep, and now he's just letting Yoda and Liam have at it, and he's just going to slowly pull away. It's not going to try and put in lap after lap of absolutely insane pace. He's just going to be happy, just letting them slowly drag themselves down.
Freeware is caught up with Liam. Alex Bido, who was at one point potentially out of this race. Alex Bido, let's take a look at his pit stops here. 5 pit stops out of the Spaniard, and he is within range of Freeware, who's on 4, and Liam, who's on 3. He is showing a ton of pace, and his opportunities have been, quite convenient.
Yeah, and now the battling between Yoda and Liam's brought Freeware into the party, and as a result, it's brought Alex Bido into it as well. So now we've got 4 cars battling for P4, and again, this is just good news for Remco. Good news for Alex Bido, who is going to come off. We've seen Alex Bido make some absolutely incredible overtakes already in this race, and I think the weather is Alex Bido almost runs into the rear of Freeware, goes a little bit deep into turn 6. And that's cost him here, but again, the battle is going to allow him to pull himself back into the mix.
Manius and Wisp now wheel to wheel coming down into turn 1. The Haas looking for the move into 8th position. Now wheel to wheel with the Renault on the inside. Does Wisp hold this? I do believe he will. Now Yoda and Freeware have had an exchange as well. Yoda losing out to the German. That's Freeware into 5th, and he'll look to switch back with, of course, the AlphaTauri ahead, but he's got Alex Bido looking at this as well, not too far behind, and there goes Yoda back into 5th position, holding that inside through the chicane, and we'll see what Alex Bido's able to do, as it's still the 2 drivers looking for 5th position fighting, and it's Freeware now. Does he have the lunge to the inside? He does have a lunge. Yoda gives him some space there, and now they're really wheel-to-wheel coming through turn 2. This is going to really give Alex Bido a nice front row seat as well. Now wheel-to-wheel coming into the 3-4 chicane, actually, as Yoda gets through, holding off the German. There goes Freeware up the inside through the corner of the Flying Tanitsa. Yoda now, big dive out of Alex Bido up the inside of turn 6, and he's made it happen for him in the Ferrari. He's gotten ahead of this McLaren under these very, very wet conditions, and I do think the conditions are getting worse. But what an opportunistic move out of Alex Bido. He's into 6th position now.
Yeah, Yoda's just lost 3 places in the space of 1 lap. He is not going to be happy with that as how that has gone. Like you said, Alex Bido, he's been putting on some strong moves so far, and that might just be his best yet. That dive up the inside was perfectly executed. That's how you're going to do a dive, especially in these conditions, which, like you're saying, do appear to be slightly worsening as time goes on. And we've got a Sector 1 yellow flag. Who is that? It's the McLaren of, I believe, Cactus outside of turn 1.
Cactus has been definitely struggling in these conditions. Widow pulled away from Yoda significantly here already. 1.5 seconds in climbing away from Yoda. Freeware now in 5th position is nearly a second away from him, just the same, and there seems to be a little bit of a pace differential right now. It's still raining. Things are still quite slick on this circuit.
Yeah, the dry line seems to be starting to disappear again. But everyone just...
The calm before potentially the second storm, if you will. XTXP, however, not going to be too calm. He's got Jinakari hunting him down in the rear view.
Yeah, the house needs to have been battling for a fair few laps now as Moen. Well, he agrees with us. He thinks it's worsening. I don't think it's wet conditions yet, as he comes out ahead and into this battle. There's the back marker of Cactus there. And these two drivers in XTXP and Jinakari have just had a back marker and someone exiting the pits thrown at them. But is Moen right to go onto those wets?
Well, it's a big lockup, and here goes XTXP now. The inside, a little bit of contact, a little bit of a shake coming out of that car. Got yellow flags popping up behind them. Microlander, I think that was his Mercedes, potentially. Unless we've got yellow flags as a result of maybe some overtaking from the front runners here. Now, I do believe that was Microlander's Mercedes, maybe the back marker, but Moen. Jinakari now is struggling. Sorry, Moen is struggling. Jinakari gets ahead of him. These wets haven't yet come into their own here. It's quite the gamble that he has taken. Even running them on some very wet portion of the circuit. Remco van Putten getting him through him. Blue flags being shown. Of course, that's probably why he pulled over to the inside. But this has just been such an up and down dynamic race.
Yeah, I think Moen's going to regret the decision to come onto these wets. The only thing that would save him now is if this weather just started absolutely destroying the track, but he's just struggling so much for grip. Again, it's hard to tell whether he's struggling for grip or if he's letting these drivers through, because he is now a back marker. But I imagine he wished he probably stayed out there on the intermediate compound tyres.
I love the confusion. I really do love the confusion. Because guess what it is? It's not about the fact that... It's about the tire wear. You come in off of these intermediate compound tires as they get to a higher level of tire degradation. You're uncertain if it's the weather or if it's the actual tires themselves. We're still looking at intermediate conditions here, but these tires are beginning to get... Well, they're starting to lose their grip. And because of this... These drivers are going to have a false sense of whether or not these conditions are extraordinarily wet. Plus, you have to keep in mind, things like the spray on the rear of these cars are massive. As you look at XTXP, Jinakari battling, as, you know, lead drivers are pushing through. Tons of spray when you get into those big groups, those big packs of cars. Freeware is still hunting down Liam. Henners now had it. Whoa, there goes Wisp. He's had a spin. Henners slowing down. I think he's not happy with himself as a result here. Slowed down enough, I think, for Wisp to catch him.
Yeah, and you love to see things like this, especially, you know, the drivers, they're here for a little bit of fun, and they don't want to be lapping by themselves. So when something happens like that, they're going to want to allow it. But Wisp's done an absolutely huge send up the inside into turn 10, and it's not worked out for him, but I bet Henners wasn't expecting it. I certainly wasn't, and judging by your little exclamation there, you weren't as well, Striff. But Wisp are going to have another look down into the chicane at the end of the lap. A little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact between Henners, and Henners has bounced off the wall, lost on end play, and there he is, side by side, and Henners smacked. Brutal. Well and truly battered down that casino straight.
That was very questionable. Very questionable right there, of course, between those two. Things are getting quite heavy. Quite heavy on circuit with the weather and rain conditions. Once again, you can see the visibility is decreasing.
Yeah, the one thing now that these drivers have to contend with, when is the time, if the time comes, switch back to the wets? Because if the track, the rain can get heavy, but the track might not quite get wet enough as Liam.
Ooh, it's tight between these two. The Red Bull keeping that inside line. Quite neat from him.
On the outside into the hairpin, looking for the switch back on Remco, but Remco, we say it nearly every time we commentate him, the defensive abilities of the Mercedes driver, absolutely incredible.
Liam really wanting a podium here, I imagine. Home race. Freeware gonna want to deny that just the same as Alex Bido will. Enters and whiffs both into the pit lane now.
Liam still trying to go around the outside.
Yeah, this has really opened it up for Freeware. Freeware on the inside coming into the chicane. There's a little bit of a unsettlement of that racing point, and Freeware gets through into the 3-4 chicane into 4th position. Now he's going to look to hunt down, of course, Remco Van Putten, but Liam wants to get that position back. Alex Bido is entering the fold quite closely as well.
Yeah, Alex getting very ready to take full opportunity. We've seen him being opportunistic with Yoda, who has really dropped off these guys quite substantially. As we've now got a yellow flag in Sector 1 and 2. It looks like Wisp and Hennis might have had another problem. But it's Alex Bido looking at Liam. Looks around the outside, switches to the inside. It's not so much of a dive we saw him do on the Albanian, but it is Alex Bido now up into 5th place. Can Liam get the traction on the outside? They're locked together as they exit the hairpin. It is going to be Alex in P5 for the time being down the casino straight, and Alex Bido using up pretty much all of his battery. He's nearly fully depleted the energy store, and Freeware hasn't let Remco go. This last podium position is up for grabs for any one of these 4 drivers. We've still got 17 laps to go. As Freeware looks around the outside of turn 1. Not going to make it there, but Remco's got a little bit deep. Can Freeware go around the outside? It doesn't look like he's going to get the traction he needs. Where's Alex Bido in all of this? He's a little bit too far back to do anything about it, but this has been so tight so far.
Freeware is just taking a 3-second time penalty. The regular corner cutting isn't enough for these drivers to avoid all of the penalties. It's 70 laps around here, and there he goes up the inside now through turn 6, coming out of turn 7 around the outside still, and there's big contact. Freeware into the wall. He's come together with the Dutchman. Alex Bido and Liam fly by these two, and Yoda is just coming out of the 3-4 chicane now, so he is going to take some time to catch up with this, but the Dutchman and Freeware coming together like that, it's a lot of damage on the front end of that Alpha Tower, and we'll have to take a look at that Red Bull. Absolutely unscathed for the Dutchman, and it's another unfortunate circumstance for Freeware here, and yet again another Endurance Series round. Now Liam is still within, of course, that 1 second range. No DRS in the equation through this one, but he is within a tight margin of the Spaniard ahead in 3rd.
Yeah, neither Freeware or Remco are going to be too happy with how that's played out, and Alex Bido and Liam are going to be rubbing their hands together.
Yeah, these wet conditions can present so many different things like that, and now we'll have to see what Freeware does. He's coming to the pit lane. He's going to get that wing changed over. He's getting onto some fresh intermediate compound tires.
Yeah, new front wing, fresh inters. He doesn't think the rain's getting heavy enough for full wets. I think if he did, he probably would have stayed out for, well, maybe not stayed out, but maybe just switched straight to them.
Well, we'll have to see if those intermediates are the right call here. He's still well within the points. Freeware, ooh. That's just going to salt things quite harshly. 5 seconds added to his time here at the end of this race as a result of crossing the pit lane exit line. And Remco, of course, came out of that entire situation unscathed. No damage on his car.
Yeah, that 5-second penalty, I believe that's what you call bad to worse, as Ginicari and Hennes having a little exchange. Hennes up into P10, out of the hairpin.
Hennes is going to be looking for P9 as well, considering he's on some very fresh intermediates compared to the drivers ahead. He's got 4.5 seconds to climb down now. 2XTXP and Ginicari has pulled the plug to come into the pit lane here. He has retired the car as well, so he is finished here in Montreal for this race. He is yet again another driver to fall victim to the torrential gauntlet that is the 70 laps around the circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
Yeah, and it really has been a very tough ordeal for all of these drivers. Now 14 of them left in this race, and it's been a tough one. It's not over yet, far from it, and there's another yellow flag. It looks like that might be, it's XTXP. He's lost out to Hennes. Is there any damage on the Renault?
Already
he is missing an end plate.
Has moved ahead of him. I've got a yellow flag through sector 3. Some drivers on the entry into the pit lane, it would seem.
Shenjie's in for fresh wets.
So the leader of this race has called it onto the wet compound tires. Domi has come in for wets, as well as Alex Vito. Liam is going to follow him in, and there we have it. Another switch to some wet compound tires. We're on lap 56 out of 70. We've still got quite a bit of racing to go, and well, we're under another set of tires for a good chunk of this grid. Penalties are going to be served in the pit lane as well for a few of these racers once they get onto these wets, and it's going to shake things up all up and down again as XTXP is just taking 5 seconds on entry.
Well, Striff, I said if the wet conditions are going to get worse, Freeware's not going to be too happy about it, and I imagine he's absolutely fuming right now with how this has gone. One lap after he came in for a fresh wing and a new set of inters, he has to come back in for another tyre change, so he's not going to be happy with how this has gone at all for him. He is serving a 5-second, that one he got for crossing that white line on exit, so it's just gone from bad to worse for Freeware, and he's now just been passed in the pit lane, it would seem. Although, alright, there is a back marker on one of the Renaults.
Well,
So I'm not too sure who he's lost the position to.
I want to take a moment to talk about is we're on these wet compound tires now, seemingly to the end of this race. Fatigue. We've been here for some time watching these cars go around, and I'm not tired. I'm quite excited about this race finish, but these racers are putting in a lot of concentration, as we already spoke about. And fatigue can play a role in these races. We've seen it before, and when you have a wet condition like this, a super wet condition where you're on these blue rim tires, everything gets amplified. So, as much as Freeware could be upset, he's had quite a few of these races, to be fair. We've had 14 of them now. This is the 14th rendition, Grand Prix of the Endurance Series. We've seen changeable conditions throughout the season, and we've seen how, really, these 13 laps are crucial to the end of this race, because these drivers, if they make one mistake, whether it be Yoda 29 seconds behind Remco Van Putten, or Rutania 17 behind Freeware, there's just so much difference in dynamic that can happen in these Endurance Series races. We've seen it already today. We're on lap 57. We've had 2 safety cars with reduced damage. One of them came out of nowhere. So anything can happen.
Absolutely, and now this pit window seems to space things out a little bit. Liam out of the 1 second gap to Alex, but obviously we haven't seen DRS for a good probably 50 laps or so, to be honest here, but now everything's just sort of chilled out for a moment. Whether we see things get a little bit worse or a little bit more tense into the closing stages of the race. We're coming up to the last 10 laps in a few moments' time.
Things have really spaced themselves out now with all of these pit stops. Liam now has actually fallen off of Alex Bido, and this is something about setups. Depending on your ride height, depending on how you've set your car up for these conditions, it's everything. Because if you have a high ride height, of course, in these heavier conditions, you might be better off. If you've got a lower ride height, my words in it. If you've got a lower ride height, the less rain, those conditions will suit you. But seeing setup differentials come through in these conditions, and it's something that you don't get to see a lot of in 25% and 50% races. We are here for a 100% race. Drivers are just giving it everything they've got, and the conditions have presented, well, a dynamic I think we've never seen before, in the fact that I think the general consensus is that that safety car came out for weather and weather alone.
Yeah, we are just... I think it just takes one driver now to make a mistake to change things completely for the remainder of the race.
Him now breezing by the back marker of Cactus. Cactus currently AI controlled. Not had the most ideal of races. 4 laps down, and you can really see this race is it's been tough. It's been tough. These races present such a dynamic. For the position changes, we've got Liam up 10, Remco Van Putten up 15 positions here, Domi up 8, Alex Bido's moved up from 4th to 3rd, Yoda's down 4, Freeware's down 4, you've got Rutanius down 3, he was in 5th when he began, now he's in 8th hunting down Freeware. Henner started this race in 9th, and he's held it in 9th after an up and down campaign. And look at the pit stops on this grid. 5, 6 pit stops, 4 pit stops out of some of these drivers. We've had 7 and 8 in Microlander and Cactus's cases. Remco Van Putten now dispatching Cactus as well.
Yeah, and you got to think that some of these drivers have had huge, like Freeware and Alex Bido in particular, they've and Remco as well had that issue with Freeware obviously getting away unscathed, but some of these drivers have had to pit more times than they would like. Alex Bido's got 2 extra pit stops that really could have been avoided, yet he's still up in 3rd, so it just shows that even when you may have a stroke of bad luck, make a mistake in this race, something goes wrong, there is so much opportunity to recover. And we've still got 10 laps to go here. There's been some super impressive drives.
The closest gap on this grid to Unicorn is still this Liam hunting down Alex. And I genuinely think that, considering how we saw these two fighting earlier, at this point in time in the race, it's definitely come down to a potential setup or maybe an issue at some point causing Alex to just get that momentum to pull ahead of the Canadian. But this is the closest gap on grid. We'll have to see what Liam's able to do. We're on lap 61 now out of 70. NJ is just flying. He is absolutely locked in. 20 seconds ahead of Domi. Domi, no slouch. Definitely using the pad here, or I think he'd be out of this race on the wheel.
If he is on the wheel, then, well, I imagine he's going to consider a change over to it with the performance he's having here. But yeah, I think, like you said, he's probably switched back over to his controller, obviously his preferred method for driving these cars, or at least his fastest method, most successful, shall we say.
Those that are just tuning in, we'll show you the stops, and that should explain plenty. We have had a very, very dynamic race here around the Montreal circuit, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve here for the Canadian Grand Prix. Of course, from Canada, my name is Stryfium. Joining me from the UK is Unicorn, and if you've been enjoying the race, help us out. Hit that follow button. It means the world, because we have a ton of racing action still to come, of course, on the channel. We do 5 regular league races a week presently. Action for that kicks off this Tuesday at 8 p.m. GMT. Of course, that is round 18 of the Misfits Racing League action. That is the Japanese Grand Prix, and it's going to be the first of 5 races for the European division on Tuesday. And Unicorn, you and I imagine, have been waiting for that race all season long. There isn't many circuits on the calendar as iconic as Suzuka, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
I mean, we had the Suzuka endurance race as part of this series not too long ago, 3 weeks ago now. I want to say time flies, but
it was so thrilling. And I can tell you one driver who isn't looking forward to Japan, Alex Bitto. He didn't look forward to it in the endurance series, and now he's got to go through it all again, as iconic as it is when he went off in the finale of season 2.
Yeah, Alex has that Suzuka curse. He's such a well-rounded driver. You know, when you ask people who they're, top 10 drivers in the MRL, I imagine he makes quite a few of those lists, but something about Suzuka seems to trouble the Spaniard, and this week's the week. Whether he can finally, buck that trend and get away from it, be a little bit more successful. Maybe get on the podium. Who knows, but right now he is in that podium position, lapping in 3rd, and he is pulling out a little bit from Liam.
Of course, for the Endurance Series, these races are held on Formula 1 race weekends, and they follow the Formula 1 calendar. Unfortunately, as a result of some of the fantastic circuits we've had the pleasure of seeing in the World Championship this season not being in the game, we have had to, of course, have the drivers vote for the circuits they wish to drive. So we've been having them vote for circuits that we won't see the real World Championship visit this season. And Canada was this week's pick.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I've been disappointed with the... Obviously, it would have been lovely to see the Turkish Grand Prix circuit utilised tonight, but this race has just been something else. It's been a very, very entertaining affair, so I can't imagine anyone's disappointed with how or what track the drivers chose to participate upon this weekend. And
now, if
there's
anyone's
another yellow
wondering,
flag, it's a Renault.
Yeah, what's happened is this Wisp
Wisp.
got a
Is
bit of
that an
damage.
plate?
Yeah, that front right's gone. Well, one thing here, of course, to talk about is the fact that it's been 64 laps of racing, and we've had, look at the intervals on this grid. I don't think we've ever had an endurance race space itself out like this. I genuinely don't. Not like this. And if anyone's wondering, for the record, why we've been on with Liam so much on the stream in this Racing Point, it is because he is the solo Canadian driver in this race this evening, and he is on the verge of some very, very large points considering he started this race in, well, 14th position. Done for a fantastic result here. Well, Freeware has caught up within 1 second of Yoda, and we're going to see some action unfold between these two quite soon.
Yeah, Freeware, he's had some unfortunate incidents in this race, but he's not one to give up, and he'll be trying to fight his way as high up this grid as possible. I imagine Yoda's probably, or the P6 that Yoda's currently holding is the best result Freeware's going to get without someone up the front having a big issue in the last 5 laps, but Freeware wants this P6 and he wants to keep himself there. As Cactus has overtaken Microlander's AI-controlled car. Cactus as well, someone who we've seen a couple of times now in these endurance races. He doesn't give up either, he sits them out, it would seem, to the very end. And 13th place is nothing to scoff at in what has been such a dynamic and difficult race for these drivers.
Freeware with a bit of a slide coming out of 14 here. 65 now. We're on lap 65 out of 70. We're coming down to the wire, and this is the tightest battle on circuit. It's a volley for 2 points between these two, Yoda and Freeware, and they've got the back marker of Henners now pulling off in 9th position. XTXP is hunting down Henners as well. As a result, he's gained nearly a second as Henners tried to get back going out of turn 2.
Yeah, that just goes to show how just absolutely crazy it is. We've got 6th and 7th battling on the 66th lap, and they're lapping P9 as they go. So Squid now completely spaced out. Everyone just completely all over the track, and it's just because of the absolutely insane conditions that these drivers have faced. And
I believe there's some kind of issue with the broadcast, like the spectator audio in the game. I keep getting cutouts as I try to jump on with broadcast cameras. There we have it. Freeware now. Yoda coming out of turn 14. Yoda holding 6th right now. The German with a lunge up the inside into turn 1. Nothing doing just yet. It was very tight. Now they have another back marker to contend with, and that's Microlander. No ghosting between these two as well. This is going to be Freeware having to keep things super tight as they move through now with a lunge on the inside. Using a lot of that curb. Wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't regular corner cutting, but of course he's made the move ahead of Yoda into 6th position.
yeah, Freeware, he knows that the track limits, the gloves are off in terms of the stewards, so he's going to take full utilization. But Yoda absolutely flying, almost running into the back of him. The McLaren getting a bit close for comfort, but Freeware in P6 at the moment. Not too many laps left for the Albanian to try and work his way back past into 6th place.
Yeah, and something to talk about is that Yoda and Freeware just passed Microlander, right? Yeah, Shenjay is about to do the same. Shenjay has flown so far ahead of these racers. He has had an absolute superlative drive in this AlphaTauri. 21 seconds ahead of his nearest rival in Domi, and right now the gap to leader for Yoda and Freeware is very close, as there is Shenjay dispatching the back marker of Microlander now. A lot of these drivers struggling in these conditions. You see that gap to leader is quite extensive.
Yeah, I don't think Shenjay's gonna get Yoda and Freeware here, but it's the fact that we're even contemplating the fact that he's behind 7th place on a full 100% race, a full grid of 20 drivers, and Shenjay has the opportunity, if Freeware and Yoda continue to battle, to lap 7th and 6th. Just absolutely dominant from him.
Yoda needs to keep applying pressure to Freeware here. Freeware had a bit of a shake coming out of the 8-9 chicane, and if Yoda is able to apply pressure to Freeware out of that chicane, he might be able to dispatch the German, because that is, of course, where we saw Freeware have his issue earlier in this race. It seems like quite some time ago, but it was in this race. 68 laps have now happened. Well, we're on lap 68. We've had a 67 full laps here as Yoda takes a 3-second time penalty, and that really prompts me to inquire where we're at with penalties on this grid. We've seen so many penalties come hard and fast here through race control for exceeding limits, cutting the corners. Canada, a circuit that's regularly very, very strict on the corners. When we have that setting on, if you so much as get a single tire off circuit, in some cases, you will be awarded a penalty. Got the regular corner cutting on today. Drivers are still taking penalties. Of course, the wet conditions not giving anybody any help in that equation. Liam now dispatching, and again, another back marker.
I think the conditions are getting wet as Yoda is struggling to get past Wisp's AI. I don't know what's happened to Wisp, whether he's disconnected or is just in the pause menu or something, but Yoda really struggling there to get past the runner. He has now made it, but It's cost him 3 seconds to Freeware, so Freeware is... that's pretty much the race over for these two, or the race in between them. As Shenjie isn't far from crossing onto the final lap.
Well, a few of these drivers behind Shenjie, of course, are lapped, and they'll be, of course, catching an early checkered flag in this campaign. They're a lap down. So when he crosses to finish this race, they will finish early. Liam still 3 seconds off of Alex here.
Yeah, I think them finishing the running order right now is pretty much identical to the order we're going to see finish. What would be interesting is if Freeware has more penalties than Yoda, or if Bido has more penalties than Liam. Could see some... Oh, sorry, yes. It is Bido and Liam with a 3 second gap there. As it seems Liam has just found he's found about 8 tenths on Alex down in towards turn 1, so... That's very interesting to see. But you don't want to throw anything away on the last lap of such a long campaign for these guys. So as Liam gets a big shake out of those points, all that time he just gained pretty much evaporates.
Shenjie, after what has been a very, very long race here, Unicorn. It's going to be Shenjie coming through the 13-14 chicane, the final chicane now. He is going to win this Canadian Grand Prix by a landslide. He collects the checkered flag now. Domi, the next driver to come down the casino straight. Look at the conditions. You can see the spray coming off the back marker of Microlander as he had a connection issue of some degree. Here we have it, Domi coming through the final chicane. Alex Bido as well heading down into the chicane, but it is going to be Domi for P2 here in the Mercedes. Alex Bido in the Ferrari, making up a position from where he began in 4th, collecting 3rd place here. Liam, the Canadian, crosses into 3rd. After penalties are handed down, it's the Canadian of Liam taking a podium here around Montreal. And what he couldn't do in Tier 2, he has now taken a sweet revenge for, that is for sure, Unicorn, as he didn't finish that race. And now he's come with a podium here. Remco van Putten, the Dutchman, with a big weave coming across 5th. Of course, Retanius, Henners, XTXP collect 8, 9, and 10. Moen in 11th position will be catching that flag soon. Wisp 12th, Cactus 13th, Microlander as well, and Freeware with a big cut here just to finish this race. Into the wall he goes, and it's Yoda now in P7. Where does he land? Do penalties play a role here? I do believe they did. I think that's a P6 for the Albanian as a result of Freeware's penalties. And that was a very long, exciting, intense, just dramatic campaign. I don't know how many words I can come up with to really explain and convey that one.
I think a lot of words could describe that race. It was absolutely staggering from start to finish.
Just intensity that dry. So it was a dry qualifying into a dry race start, following intermediates to wets to intermediates, safety cars, back to wets. It's just been up and down all around, and there it is. Shenjie with the win. Domi in 2nd, and the Canadian Liam rounding out the podium here around his home Grand Prix from 14th position as well. Very, very good for him. Alex Bido began this race in 4th. He finished in 4th after penalties. He did cross 3rd on this grid, however. Remco van Putten from 20th to 5th. Yoda from 2nd, dropping back to 6th. It's Freeware in 7th from 3rd. Britannius from 5th back to 8th. Henner is 9th to 9th. He holds things in that position. XTXP made up 2 slots into the final points position in this one. And it's just been one heck of an evening of racing. So I hope everybody enjoyed that one. Of course, if you did, help us out. Hit that follow button. Take a look at all the tire compounds that were utilized in this race. What a colorful rid of tires we're looking at. Lots of incidents as well. It was a long race, and with that comes a long incident director.
Alex Biddo, 7 pit stops, same with Freeware as well. So those two, goodness knows, Remco Van Putten from back of the grid to 5th. Strong drive from him. Liam, 14th to 3rd. Domi, 10th to 2nd. These guys, they're over such a long period of time. What was it? The race taking, well, I don't know, what, an hour and a half at least. And just the race itself, they've just been so brilliant around here this evening. These endurance races are tough, but when you throw conditions like that at them, and a safety car is brought out just because the conditions are so bad, that's when you know that things are really quite interesting and taxing on the drivers as well.
Well, that was... Of course, don't go too far. We're going to rate a member of the F1 community. That was a ton of fun. The drivers, they had an indication of the weather condition, and of course, you know, we love to see these types of races. We saw a very unique race in Zandvoort the last time out, and these weather dynamics really represent some fun. I think the next time we are out, we'll see some dry running. I don't know. It depends, of course. These races are based on the reality, the real weather. Okay, so when we looked at Canada, this Montreal race, which was voted because we don't have the Turkish Grand Prix, it was about, okay, we got to look at Montreal. We got to look at what the weather's like on Saturday for the qualifying, and now we've got to look at what the weather's like in the race. And it was, realistically, it was, I think, close to how it was supposed to go in Montreal. I told the drivers it's going to be some dry, to quote, Canadian weather, and that's how the rain happens here. It comes fast, hard. We saw it in the 2011 Grand Prix. It just starts to drizzle, and bam, you know, you're in the middle of a hurricane of some kind. And then it goes back, and then it comes back heavy again, and that's just how rain in Canada works. So that's something I wanted to try and emulate today. I hope the drivers enjoyed it. I hope you guys all enjoyed it on stream. We are going to head off and rate, of course. Thank you so much to everybody that tuned in. If you haven't hit that follow button already, help us out. Hit that follow button. We have 5 amazing races coming to you this coming week. Everything begins on Tuesday. It's 5 rounds around Suzuka, of course. We are hitting the Japanese Grand Prix, the next round of Misfits Racing League action. Of course, full damage, strict corner cutting in those races. Everything's streamed live here. So hope to see you parked here for those. That, of course, the first round around Suzuka, that is at 8 p.m. GMT, or if you're in the UK, 8 p.m. for you. And that's at 3 p.m. Eastern, or 2 Central. I'm trying to cover a lot of different time zones, but yes, we have a ton of racing coming, and we greatly appreciate all of you and all of the support you guys have given us. This is, of course, round 14 of the Endurance Series, but we are going to, with all that being said, head on over and rate a member of the community here, and I greatly appreciate everybody who tuned in and enjoyed it. So thank you so much, and we will see you hopefully on Tuesday for some Suzuka action.